Welcome back to another video. Today we're talking about underrated albums. Sorry it's been so long. I've been out and about doing side quests, but now I'm back locked in on what's important. I mean, I gotta feed the kids somehow, gotta keep the lights on. So we're gonna be talking about underrated albums. I made a community post asking for you guys to comment underrated songs and albums, and I didn't really mention that it was gonna be for a video, so I'm kind of just taking your suggestions unconsensually, but that's fine. Let's begin. First, we have Distant Relatives by Nas. Now, I do love me some Nasir Jones, but I was unfamiliar with this album, and apparently it's a collab album between Damian Marley and Nas, which makes sense on why I was unfamiliar with it. I'm not really tapped into the reggae scene, especially reggae from 2010, but then I listened to it, and I definitely agree with the fact that it's underrated. There's really a lot to like with this album. Nas flows perfectly over these reggae-infused beats, which was kind of surprising, but, you know, also it's Nas, so it makes sense. And that combined with Damian's vocals, it just works very well. Now, I wasn't really tapped into hip-hop in May of 2010, but I bet it was a surprising day realizing that there would be a collab album with Nas and Damian Marley. The album has a very clear message and it just works very cohesive. It like blends together very well. My personal favorite tracks, I like the intro track, As We Enter, and I also like Patience. Those are probably my two favorite songs from the album. Very enjoyable listening experience, and I added some songs to the playlist. So overall, success. Next suggestion. I Brought You My Bullets, You Brought Me Your Love by My Chemical Romance. I just got done listening to it and I enjoyed it. All right, MCR, I've only listened to 3 albums and they all sound very different from each other. I mean, obviously still with the same, roots, but, different sounding in each of them. Gerard's vocals on this album are a little different. Like, sometimes I hear him going out of tune, or it almost sounds like he's out of breath, and normally that really wouldn't be too good of an attribute, but I feel like it kind of works well with this album. This album, I think it sounds different because it almost kind of sounds like a garage demo. It's a little messier and rougher around the edges than some of the other albums I've listened to from My Chemical Romance, but I did really love the album overall. My 2 favorite songs from the album, probably Demolition Lovers and Skylines and Turnstiles. Especially the storytelling in Skylines and Turnstiles. The storytelling really hits, especially considering the band's lore and why they started. Now, I'm pretty sure this is kind of surface level knowledge, but the band was literally started right after 9/11. Gerard Way being moved by the emotional impact of those events. That's when he started the band, and he really goes into detail on this song, and that's probably my favorite song off the album, Skylines and Turnstiles. Do I think it's their best work? No, it's their debut album, so it really shouldn't be, but I don't think it really stands with 3 Cheers for Sweet Revenge or The Black Parade, but overall it was a very enjoyable listening experience. Maybe it's just because I hold MCR to such a high standard. So yeah, this album still was really good, but I don't think it's their best work. But it definitely is underrated in the sense that it should definitely get a lot more praise. The next suggestion is Rebel by SD Kid. I don't even know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I'm happy someone brought this up because I want to talk about this guy. SD Kid is a UK rapper who runs under a disguise. There are various theories and rumors on who he could be. The main one I'm seeing is people thinking he's Timothée Chalamet, except that wouldn't make any sense. He's not British or anything, but maybe Timmy just has that UK accent in him. I mean, he's a pretty talented guy, but I hate to break the news, but I am SD Kid. All right, I'm not, but I did grow up in the slums of Liverpool, bruv. I heard a lot of buzz about this album on TikTok and just on other spaces, and I was going into it thinking it was genuinely gonna be garbage, but it actually turned out to be pretty good, and I may or may not be bumping it a lot, okay, more than I expected. The production is pretty solid. The vocals, the UK accent, at first, it was kind of hard, but once you get used to it, it's hard in a different way, all right? I actually like it. I like the UK accent. Now, this is an album I would only throw on in certain occasions or if I'm in certain moods. But overall, the album is pretty fun, and I do like the aggressive delivery. All right, it's nothing groundbreaking, but it is pretty good, and I'm actually looking forward to seeing SD Kid, what he does in the rest of his career, or whoever he is. I would say this album is underrated amongst critics, but overrated amongst kids on TikTok. Little British kids bumping this, but you know, that's kind of how it is with a lot of opium sounding albums. Next, we have Snow White's Poison Bite, the whole first album. Now, this was definitely something I was completely unfamiliar with, so I mean, I just had to give it a listen. Okay, I really just started listening to metal and getting into metal like a couple months ago, and now I'm getting hit with obscure bands from the early 2010s with like 50,000 monthly listeners on Spotify, and that's what I'm here for. That's why we play the game. I love the like eerie horror vibes that I get off this album, and it's kind of unlike anything I've heard. I mean, you can compare it to some other like metal bands like Slipknot, for an example, but still it is very different. And the lead singer's vocals, it kind of takes a while to get used to, but once I got used to the lead singer's kind of like a high-pitched, nasally sort of voice, I actually think it works well with the insanely good drum performances and instrumentals on this album. All the songs that I've listened to from this band seem to have very catchy choruses and some of the most energetic choruses I've ever heard. I'm not the biggest fan of the vocals, really, but I do love the energetic sound. And, you know, me saying I'm not the biggest fan of the vocals, that's kind of what this whole album's about. I mean, just like not listening to other people's opinions and doing whatever you want. That really shines on There's a New Creep in Town, which that was kind of the main message of that song. If you're into metal, you should check them out. And yes, they are very underrated, considering the fact that before this video, I have never heard of this band. Now we have 3 Wishes on Truly Yours 2 by J. Cole. Now, I've never really went back and listened to J. Cole's like early mixtapes, and after listening to this, I definitely am. This was definitely one of J. Cole's most like real, authentic, and emotional songs of all time, and he has a lot of songs like that. Maybe it's because I listened to that Nas album earlier in the video, but this early J. Cole really gives me a lot of Nas vibes. The storytelling on this song is great, and you know, this really fits the whole meme of J. Cole being the most humble rapper, because I mean, he literally has 3 wishes and he didn't use any of those on himself. What a humble king. Next suggestion is Bulimia by Sap. This is a song that I've never heard of, and I probably pronounced the name wrong. I listened to this song and the immediate reaction is that it sounds very similar to Nirvana. It's like the 2020s version of Nirvana. And when I say that, you're probably like, oh, that sounds kind of lame. Why are you just stealing a style? No, it's a lot different. I ended up listening to some of the album. Lard Baby, yeah, very weird name. I don't know if I really wanted to Google that, but very good album, and the album dives deep into a lot of deep subjects and touchy subjects, and they address them in a great way. Very underrated, and I wouldn't be surprised if this band really starts getting its recognition and blows up very soon. The next comment was We Cry Together by Kendrick Lamar. Now, I have heard this one because I'm a big Kendrick Lamar fan, and I have seen the music video. Definitely not a music video you want to, you know, watch or listen to in front of really anybody, like especially kids. I will say the amount of people like in the comments talking about how this music video is crazy or like unrealistic, that's just kind of out of touch. This song is underrated in the sense that it really dives into a deep topic, But me personally, I prefer the NFR podcast version of this song. And lastly, we have a real niche song by a real underrated artist, Shake It Off by Taylor Swift. It's like I'm supporting a small business over here, supporting the local coffee shop over here. Shake It Off is all right, but it doesn't touch Bad Blood or You Belong With Me. Anyways, thanks for tuning in, folks. Hopefully you enjoyed. Thanks for all the comments. Maybe I'll do videos like this soon, more engaging videos. I might do overrated albums sometime soon. If I really wanted the views, I would just do overrated albums. Controversy just gets way more people riled up. So maybe one day I will do that. But anyways, thanks for tuning in. Hopefully you enjoyed. Adios.